And welcome to the channel, Next Gen Millionaires. How you doing this week? I'm Joe Burns. I'm your money master, coming here with some cool money conversations this week. Man, like as I've been putting this together this week. There's so many different ideas of what I want to share, things to come up with. But so just stay with me in what I'm doing, because what I want to share is that for those who do have are on my newsletter list. You'll notice that I do live streams and then they become newsletters. Kind of tricky, right? But I think it's good because then you can listen to me talk. And then you can actually read kind of that translation the following week, and it better solidifies in our brains, right? We can see it from multiple avenues. So I'm just helping you get in your brains and in your physical being, like moving about money and fun stuff a little bit different. But there's been a concern I've had with how I've been doing it over a while. Like for many of you who have been following me for a while, know that I started doing a bi-monthly publication about racism and money. And like I haven't done it for a while. Like I've been trying to put together stuff and just within my brain, right? To look at the life of Joe and the brain part here. You're not alone, one, right? And kind of the craziness when it comes to money and when you look at it and kind of what you deal with. But I've wanted to do more publications about that. And I had an epiphany a couple weeks ago when I was talking to my coach. I'm like, oh my gosh, like I have created two separate conversations and I need to stop doing that. So I wanted to use this week's to talk a little bit about racism and money and just kind of what to expect going forward. Because it's an important conversation, right? When we look at the constructs and the systems that we put in place as society, racism and especially from a money perspective, right? And the inability for people of color to have the same opportunity as white people in America there's a huge gap there, a huge disparity. And it goes further than just like what we're actually getting, those tangible results, right? That's what I really want to talk about this week, is how does that play in to the different things we think about when it comes to money mastery? Because it's a real thing. It's got to be part of the conversation. Okay, because it affects the way we think about money, the way we interact with other people, the way we interact with the systems in place. Definitely has implications for other marginalized groups in the United States. And there's plenty of data out there, and if you really want to start a conversation, I got plenty of it, right? I don't want to blow you away with data. What I want to do is I want to start us thinking differently about how it shows up in our lives, right? And how our own position about how we think and interact with money is partly formed by those systems that are actually in place to hold marginalized groups back, right? Because it's more about our mindset than anything else. The systems are there because somebody somewhere thought that it would be a good idea. Now, we have the opportunity, right, and kind of that stewardship to start changing things. And I know for myself, I can't do it alone, right? So I want to incorporate this into the conversation each week. So each week, I'm going to have a certain topic. Like last week, if you go back and read that, I talked about how famous people like Bill Gates are talking about money wrong, right? Which was a very cool topic to think about, and I'm going to definitely revisit that one. But if you take that conversation and you look and say, okay, how does racism look like? If we look through the lens of racism in the United States and look at that same concept, right? We start looking at the cultural things that are also taught to us as children, to different communities, about how money works. And if we start looking at those, then we can start broadening the conversation. We can start making real change. But first and foremost, as you always know me, the real change has got to start right here with you, right? Every single time you have to be the change. And as you start changing, you start speaking differently, then other people will catch on. Now, at the same time, you can start pushing in your communities to make change as well. So we don't have to just wait for all like us to become masters with money before we can start like creating change around it. Does that make sense? But we have to understand like what are the stories we're telling ourselves. And then looking through that lens again of racism to be like, what am I benefiting from? What am I not benefiting from? What is specifically in place to keep me from achieving what I want? Or what's put in place specifically so I can achieve what I want? There's two distinct things there. But as we start looking at that when it comes to money, when it comes to looking at what we have available to us, right? We tie this into like a couple different attitudes if you follow my attitudes of money, right? Opportunity and abundance. Let's talk about both those, right? Because there's different opportunities that I get as a white male in America than a lot of other people. And I understand that now. Like for the longest time I didn't. But I understand that now. So how can I use that to benefit others? Right? How can I create opportunities not only for myself so I can continue forward, but how can I create opportunities for others who might not have those same opportunities as me? Okay? My connections are going to help with that. So if we look at how the attitude of opportunity works, right? We're going to create our own opportunities and money's going to be there to help us. But when there's a system in place that prevents us from having those opportunities, that's a bigger problem. Right? When we've been taught from children that this is how it works and we have to do things a certain way, that's a problem. When we start looking at generational trauma, that's a problem. So we have to start attacking some of these different things because money plays as a core component, right? As a core player in all these conversations. Because in our minds, we've equated that money equals power. If we have more of it, then we can do more things. And there's partly a lot of truth to that. But for our own lives, we have to become more powerful with who we are. And as we do that, more money will show up. And then we can start being the ones who get to dictate how the future is. And it sucks that that's how it is, but if that's the game we got to play, then let's do it. But we got to start fixing that conversation with us, okay? So number 2, abundance. So a lot of people go into this racism conversation and they're like, well, if I have this, right, and if I'm trying to work towards this, that means somebody else can't, right? And we always have this hierarchical like view of the world of being like, well, up and down, right? And at the core of society, it's very much like that, which is really disgusting. But if you look at abundance mindset overall, just because somebody else has something doesn't that says that if they have something, I can have it too. Okay? We got to get out. There's so many people I talk to about abundance, and I hear them talk about abundance. Oh, abundance, abundance. But then they go back to this kind of, oh no, if you have that, then I can't. So I just got to make sure you don't have it so I can have it. I'm like, you got to like go back and read what abundance means because that's not what it is. Right? But we get caught in this cycle of if somebody else has it, I can't. So then I have to go get so that they can't have, right? To put myself ahead. And it's very much to keep people back. So we got to start looking at this differently, especially with money. There's an abundance of money and wealth. If we really dive into it, there is. The question is, can we shift our mindsets so we don't feel like somebody else has to have less so we can have more? Because that's not true. Okay? That's not true. But societal stories have told us that that's the case. Cultural stories and cultural facts have told us that's not the case. Because we have people in power that continue to abuse the power they have for their own gain. And when you really look at the core of that, they have really bad relationships with money. And so they feel like they have to keep other people down so they can have. Because, I mean, what happens if they lost that, right? What would happen then when they cease to exist? Most of them feel like they would. So we got to stop attaching our identity to that income we have, right? Start living a more abundant life and know that everybody can have. And we can have more if we just focus on our passions. And then through other videos as we go on, right, I'm definitely going to talk about how the system itself is problematic for a lot of the conversations we have. Because that system's still there. And it's like a machine, and it eats people up and spits them out. So we got to pay attention to that as well. So I'm not going to sit here and say, oh, that doesn't exist. It's just a construct that we did. No, it's definitely a construct that's been put in place through time. That's definitely meant to hold people back. Okay. So we'll talk about that. I just kind of want to lay this out here that the conversation is one and the same. There's not like money mastery and then every once in a while I'll be like, well, this is how, marginalized groups have been affected by this stuff. Because it's one conversation. If we can get braver and bolder about talking about the one conversation as one conversation, then we can start repairing the things that we've broken in the past, and we can start elevating everybody to be on the same plane instead of having people ahead. Well, not ahead, but just behind where we're at as a society. It doesn't need to be that way. Let's really lean into the law of abundance here, okay? Saying that everybody can have. There's not a limited amount of money on this planet. There's not really a limited amount of resources. People are going to fight me on that, and I fight all the time with people about that one. Like, our higher power has given us a lot of resources. And the problem is when we squander those resources, that's when we start having problems, right? When someone feels like they're running out. Use what you need and leave the rest for people who also need it, right? Just let's share. But we got to do the work with us. We have to do the work around money and how we feel about it. We have to understand ourselves better, because when we do, then it's easier to teach those next generations that are coming behind us. It's easier to pick out the systemic racism, especially around money in the systems. And it's also easier for us to pick out to be like, hey, what was passed down to me, right? That cultural learning that we have. As we start to deconstruct that, then we can start to see, hey, what's our part in it and what was given to us. We can start letting go of what was given to us, and we can start creating our own rules, because at the end of the day, then we can leave a legacy that we really want to. And we can have the impact on this world that we know we can. So I hope you can embrace this conversation with me. I hope you can understand the pieces that are coming up inside of you that you might want to argue with me about. That's fine. I'm open to have conversations and really dig in and see like, okay, where are we at with this? And I know as we start to do it, then we're going to normalize this conversation, and it's not going to be such a taboo conversation. Like, I'm already talking about money, right? Money's already feels like one of those taboo conversations. Let's just add more. Because as we do that, then we become more empowered human beings to start making change. And that's what this is all about. And as we do that, then we're going to see other human beings in our lives also be elevated. And as that happens, then we're going to make some real impact and change in this world. And ain't nobody going to stop us. So join me on this journey. It's going to be a lot of fun. Let's figure out, what it's going to be. Let's have some real honest conversations about it. Because we're avoiding the conversations right now because we're afraid we might get it wrong. And that's okay. I'm going to be the first to admit I'm going to get it wrong. I really am, and I have gotten it wrong. But I'm going to keep trying, and I'm going to keep going forward, because as I do that, I grow. And then I start having really good conversations. I start seeing really, really amazing results in my own life, right? And those I teach. So kind of a little bit different format this week, but know that going forward, this is kind of what it's going to be. So jump on this train with me. Let's do it. And let's start to help everybody as we start looking at our own mindsets around money. But let's not exclude any of the conversations anymore. So until next week, we'll see you later. Bye.